What's good, my man in society? It is your host with the most, Shadow Look, back at you with another video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. That is how you help my channel get into the algorithm. Highly appreciate if you go and do that. Now, what I was asked is about the whole Epstein list. Why is it so important? Who gives a fuck about what's on that list? What difference is it gonna make? Who gives a shit? Why is it such a big deal? Being discussed, all over the place. And why do the Democrats care so much? If they really cared so much as they did, why didn't they release them when Biden was in office and yada, yada, yada? Now, the reason why the list is so important is because Trump ran on this. Him and his MAGA movement ran on, that why ain't the list coming out? That why are people protecting pedophiles? That they're protecting the high, rich elite. And that when he takes office, he'll, bring transparency. He'll release the list. And he'll prosecute all the ones that need to be prosecuted and bring them to justice, and yada, yada, yada. Everyone ran on that from his side of the camp, including his son. So now that he's in office, he doesn't want to release them, and he's doing everything in his power not to release them. So it created some type of suspicious behavior. Now, why the Democrats didn't release the list when Biden was in office is because they didn't care, right? It was not an importance. Nobody was talking about it. They weren't campaigning and running on that idea that they were going to release the files, For all they knew, hey, he was found guilty, and there it was, right? He committed suicide and whatnot, right? It wasn't until Trump started running saying that he thinks that there's something fishy going on and that he was going to release them. He's the one that brought up the subject and brought the subject to the front table. That's why it's important, because now that he doesn't want to release it, now he's doing everything in his power, it does seem suspicious, right? So that's the reason why people want the files now released, because there's something weird going on here. Because you say you were going to release them, but now you're doing everything in your power not to release them. It's strange. You say that there's a list, but then now you're saying it doesn't exist, right? So which one is it? Does it exist or does it not exist? Is there really a list, or is it made up by Obama, Biden? And all of that is nonsense in itself, too, because Epstein was arrested while Trump was in office, prosecuted when Trump was in office, and committed suicide when Trump was in office. He was the president. He had, all his goonies, and staff. So how could this be, Trump or Obama or Clinton? Now, let's say if they did make up this phony, documents and these phony, wouldn't you want that released, and wouldn't you want them prosecuted and investigated and, brought to justice for trying to throw dirt on your name? The fact that he's not doing that or taking actions like that is more suspicious now, right? Because you would figure that he would want this, investigated and brought to the forefront about how his opposition is doing all these dirty tactics to try to throw dirt on his name. But he's not, though, which makes it even more strange and weird, right? Like, if they did make this phony list, or if they did, create this, how come you're not investigating it? How come you're not throwing the evidence for the people to see about how these people get down? So that's even more stranger now, right? Like, what, now you're protecting the people that are trying to, throw dirt on your name? Right? And we all know that Trump would love nothing but to throw all that information out there and evidence about how these people get down. Right? He doesn't, because there's nothing, saying, that to be the case. Now, the other reason why this is dangerous and why it's important is because Epstein wasn't just alone in his, conviction and trial, right? He had his partner, what's her name? Maxwell, right? His accomplice. Now, if Donald Trump's saying that there is no client list and this client list doesn't exist and all of this shit was created by the Democrats, the left, Obama, Biden, Comey, Clinton, then Maxwell now gets to say, then why the fuck am I in jail? Then why am I in jail if this list is phony, if it's fake, if it doesn't exist, if it was made up? Then why is she incarcerated? You get what I mean? Then she can ask for a retrial and now present this new evidence to, to the jury. Like, hey, look, they say, hey, why the fuck am I locked up when this fool said that all of this shit is fake, there's no client list, and all this shit was a hoax? Then why am I in jail? Then shouldn't she get a retrial? Right? Now, you see how dangerous that is now. If now she gets the opportunity for a retrial, because who's to say that she can't get a retrial when this guy is saying that his shit's fake and it doesn't exist and it was all a hoax? Then doesn't she have a case to say that, hey, then why the fuck am I incarcerated? I should be let out of jail. And Epstein was found guilty on a hoax, on fake evidence, and all of that. And they prosecuted innocent individuals. Then, at least on the Maxwell side, right? Because one of the main things was that she had the client list. She created the client list, to bring these young girls to, and all of that. She was the mastermind behind all of that. But now they're saying that that was a hoax. It was fake. So now she has a case, right? Because if that was a hoax and fake, who's to say other parts of the case is in a hoax and fake now? Hey, now she could be, granted another trial. Because if these people, like, that are in control of the FBI and the government are saying that all this shit was fake and a hoax, then she legitly does have a case, right? Like, hey, then why the fuck am I incarcerated? I should be let out. You see how dangerous that game could get? How dirty that game could get now? And all because this guy refuses to be transparent? So it goes deeper into this whole, shit, when we're talking about the Epstein case. Because he's the one that created this mess. He's the one that brought it up. He's the one that ran on this. He's the one that promised his supporters all of this shit, right? It was him, not the Democrats, It was him and his fucking goonies. Trying to play the people. Trying to trick them, manipulate them, promise them shit, and not actually come through. He tried to play them stupid. Now you can see why that could be an issue and why some people could be annoyed and find it disrespectful. And they have every right to. They trusted this individual and he played them. Because I don't know what's on that list. And, for all we know, it's probably not even nothing bad, right? But the fact that he's covering it up, the fact that he's going through this, fucking circus of tweets and rants, trying to divert people and distract them and fucking all of this, bro, it does seem suspicious and weird. So it's like, what's on that list that you're scared for people to see? Why don't you really, if you really had nothing to worry about, if you got nothing to sweat, then release the list and let people see that, hey, look, there's nothing to worry about. And all of this shit will go away and everybody will stop talking and people will just shut the fuck up and move on. All you really have to do is show them. But you don't. Why is that? Why are you scared to show the people what it is? Why are you lying? You know what I'm saying? Because even there's been stuff that has been leaked, right? Saying that there is, a client list and there is more documents, 2,000, pages of documents, right? When they talked about the first 200 pages, right? When we now know that there was thousands of documents. So like I said, bro, the shit is starting to unravel and unfold. And he's looking really bad right about now. I'm not saying that he was a part of the whole pedophile thing and is a weirdo like that, but it's starting to look like that. Unless he could prove people wrong by just releasing the proof. But he just wants people to take his word for it. When he was saying how these people are protecting the powerful and elite and how they're doing this and that, when he's the one that's now, nah, bro, it's you. You're the one that's protecting them because Biden, Obama, what do they have to do? They weren't in office. You were sitting president. He was arrested in a Republican state and tried by Republican judges and all of that, bro. It was all part of your side of the team. So how are you going to be trying to blame these individuals? And if these individuals are trying to do that, how come you ain't releasing the proof of them fools trying to get down like that to clear your name? But that's why all of this shit is important. And not only that, but it goes to show if you're even able to trust your government or your president, right? That's why it's so important, right? Because if he's lying to you guys and you guys can't trust him, then what the fuck are we doing here? That's why it's important. Not so much about what's on that shit, right? But about what it represents. Your president lying to you and covering up for individuals. That's why it's important. Not so much about what's on there. But overall, that's just my opinion. What are your thoughts? Leave it in the comments. If shadow we are.